When you shoot a film, not every scene makes the final cut. Now, even if you spent a lot of money, and in the past we've shot many films, a co-producer of mine, we shot many films that we had to cut scenes. And we may have spent a lot of money on this scene. So just one jumps into mind, a horror film we made years ago. We spent a lot of money on the special effects. We took time designing it. We took time building it at the special effects lab. And when we finished the film, we looked at it. They looked good on the set, but when we looked at it, that scene just didn't work. And we had spent a lot of money on that scene, but we had to cut it. Same things happen in life. Sometimes things happen that you have to change. You have to walk away from. This metaphor came to me. A young filmmaker sent me some emails. He asked a few questions about projects I had done in the past. They had a small distribution company and they were looking to distribute films that were made in the early 90s. So I answered him and we continued to exchange emails. And he started to watch my YouTube channel. And he sent me this email that made me really start thinking. And that's why I'm making this video right now. He said, a lot of the things you talk about, they pertain to regular, everyday life and problem solving. And when I thought about it, he was right. And for a long time, many years, I would use terms from the film world to describe different things in my everyday life, in my normal jobs that sometimes I have to work, unfortunately. But when I really thought about it, I was like, yeah, he's got a point there. A lot of the things that I talk about can pertain to people in everyday life. So that's why I'm talking about right now, cutting things out of your life that really shouldn't be there. For instance, one just jumps to the top of my head. For instance, something easy, overeating sweets. Say, for instance, you want to lose weight and you love eating, Hostess cakes. When you go to the store and you see those Hostess cakes, cut them out, delete them, edit them, just walk right past and go to look for something else. I'm not saying you got to go to the fruit aisle and eat fruit, but you can walk away from the Hostess cakes. As a matter of fact, I did that the other night. I have a tendency as an editor, and many editors will know this, we edit and we eat junk food. The other night I was in the supermarket and I went down the cookie aisle and I'm looking at all these different choices of cookies and cakes that I could buy and eat while I'm editing to give me that quick sugar high to keep going. And I decided this is something I need to cut. There's that metaphor. Something in your life is not working. Something in your life is bringing you problems. Something in your life needs to be changed. Cut it. Hit the delete key. Cut it out. I know it sounds easier said than done, but it can work. Think of things in your life that you want to change and think of your life as a film you're editing. And it's not over with yet, depending upon your age. Like right now, I'm in the third act of my film life metaphor. But you may be young, you may be in the first act. Think of something that you're doing, something that you're not doing, something that you want to do. Insert that, cut into it. Or if it's something that you don't like, you want to change, cut it out, delete it. When I'm looking at some of the films that I've done in the past, and I look at some of the scenes, and I think to myself, I said, why didn't I cut that? Why didn't I cut that scene out? That scene didn't move the story forward. That scene didn't help the overall film. I think the real reason is the same reason that a lot of times in life you hold on to something that is not serving you a positive purpose. It's not helping you get to where you want to go. I know a lot of people who stay in bad jobs because they've been there 2 years. I've been here 3 years. I've been here 4 years. They stay in bad relationships. We've been married for 10 years. We've been married for 6 years. We've been married for 5 years because they've invested a lot of time. They think that the time they spent or the work they put in makes it worth it to keep going forward. Now, in my life, as being in the arts, an actor, director, editor, I've been able to, and sometimes good or bad, I've been able to walk away from work situations that weren't serving my purpose, that were bringing me down, that were beating me down, that were bringing my overall emotions for everything else I wanted to do low, down, depressed. And it was difficult. To be honest with you, it was difficult to walk away because sometimes I was making good money. For instance, the last few years before I started back here on YouTube, I had started working in upper management, a training manager for 2 different companies, making good money, had an expense card, had a expense account, car rental account, had traveled to different places around the United States and taught armed security officers how to handle customer service. You'll notice on my website somewhere on my channel that I've made a bunch of videos about customer service because I specialize in customer service. Customer service is related to acting, and that's why I was able to teach it. But even though I was making good money and it changed my financial situation as far as being an actor, always worrying about when the next job was coming along, I had a steady, solid income. But it was beating me down. It was driving my self-worth down because I knew I was doing something that wasn't serving my overall purpose. I was doing something that wasn't lifting me up and making me a better person. And again, I know it's easier said than done. But just because you're in a bad relationship and you've been there for 10 years doesn't mean you have to stay in it. Just because you're at a bad dead-end job and you've invested a lot of time and energy and maybe you even went through some of the self-improvement programs that the company offers to make you a better employee, you don't have to stay there. Maybe you're, I don't know, maybe you're a teacher. Maybe you're a lawyer. Maybe you're a dentist. Maybe you invested a lot of time in school to get the career that you now have, and so you're locked in. You can't leave because you feel I've invested all this time in this education and I owe money. Maybe I paid off my student loans. Maybe you didn't pay off your student loans and you don't want to leave or you can't leave because you invested too much in it. Cut it, delete it, edit it, like it's a bad scene in a movie. Listen to what I'm saying. You may be 20, you may be 30, you may be 40, you may be even younger than that. Your lifetime is limited. I know when you're young, it feels like it's going to go on forever. When I was young, I felt the same way. I felt that mine was going to go on forever. Don't get stuck in situations that are bad for you and stay there because you've invested time, or stay there because you've invested money, or stay there because you've invested some other kind of resource that you don't want to waste. Well, I put in all this time, I might as well stay here. I'm not saying quit or leave on a whim. I'm saying if something is bad, something is bringing you down, something is hurting you, look for options. You always have options. You're not stuck where you are now. Your situation doesn't have to stay where you are now. Cut it. Delete it. Speaking as a director, when I look at projects that I've edited, short films, feature films, I don't cut scenes because I don't like it. I don't cut scenes because I don't think it was well acted. I don't cut scenes because I think the writing was bad. Sometimes you have to cut that scene because it doesn't serve the overall purpose of the film. It doesn't move the story forward. It doesn't reveal character or motivation. It just doesn't fit. I know sometimes you've watched television pilots or television series or feature films, short films, and you wonder, why did they put this scene in? What did this scene have to do with anything? You know, we've all seen that. The same thing can apply to your life. Why am I in this situation? Why am I doing this? Why am I with this person? Why am I working at this company? Why am I visiting this relative who always asks me, when are you going to get married? When are you going to get a new girlfriend? When are you going to get a better job? Or the relative who always wants to tell you how good they're doing and belittle what you're doing. Oh, you want to be an actor? Oh, you want to be an actress? Oh, you want to direct films? Oh, you want to be an editor? I know a guy who can give you a job, a real job. You don't have to visit those people who bring you down. There's no reason for it. Cut it. Delete it. It may be a good scene. They may have valid reasons, or they may not be trying to hurt you. They may not be trying to belittle you. They may not be trying to bring you down. They may not be trying to make fun of you or degrade you. They might just not know any better. They may think they're helping you. But cut it. Delete it. Get rid of them. Use the film analogy. It fits to your life also. All right, here's something. About 6 years ago, business was low. My video editing business was very low. I had maybe a few clients that I edited with on not a regular basis, on a very slow, small, as needed basis. My acting, my agent, calls weren't coming in. My manager, calls weren't coming in. But I still had bills to pay. So I took a job that is always and has always been my backup job, armed security officer. So I was working at this, out here in Los Angeles, I was working at this medical marijuana facility where they made vaping pens. And this was in the very beginning when the vaping pens were big and kids were using them, and that controversy was just starting up. And the people who owned it and worked there, I was making good money because they were making good money. And it was an all cash business, so they needed an armed guard at night to guard the place where they were storing their money with a safe and da-da-da-da. So I took the job. I worked there for probably about almost a year. And I had to leave once a situation arose where one of the owners wanted to try to start to treat me as a valet or or a maintenance person. Start to slowly try to say, well, could you do this at night? And can you do that at night? And at first I was nice. No, I can't do that. My job is security. No, I can't really help you with that. My job is security. I'm supposed to be watching the cameras and making sure no one breaks in to steal your money. So I played it nicely at first, but he kept pushing because he was the owner. He was the one making the money. He was the one making the decisions. Young guy, smart, came up with a good idea to sell those vape pens to kids, make money, and it was a big boom. So he started to think that he could control everything the way he controlled the vape pen market that, he was running. But no, I had to make that decision that, finally tell this guy straight up, I'm here to be an armed security officer. No, I will not help you carry boxes down. No, I will not help you carry supplies in. No, I will not unload trucks. No, I will not do blah, blah, blah. All the other little things that he was trying to add on to me because I worked the night shift. So it got to the point where one night he wanted to try to confront me that he was going to call his partners and blah, 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 blah. So I had to tell him straight out, look, I am security. No, I will not help you do this. I am not here for that purpose. I am here to work as a security officer with a weapon. No, I'm not a maintenance man. And so finally it got through to him. And I decided that, he didn't fire me, but I decided that, this was not the situation. Even though I was in a situation where I needed the job, it was time to delete that scene. It was time to cut that scene out of my life. It was time to move on from there. And it was difficult, but I did it. Don't get caught up in situations where things are going wrong and you stay because you feel the pressure that you have no other option. You have options. You always have options. It may be difficult, but you have options. I hear a lot of kids, black kids who live in the inner city. Oh, I started selling drugs and, stealing and doing all kinds of criminal activity because I had no options in my neighborhood. You have options. You may not see the options, but there are options all around you. There are other ways to live. There are other ways to make money, no matter what your situation. You have options. Delete those people from your life. Delete yourself from that situation. You have options. Spotting red flags in your life And back to my film editing analogy, when you see things that are wrong, when you see those red flags, don't ignore them. It took me a long time to realize this in life. When I was younger, I would get into a situation where maybe I'm hired by a company to edit something or shoot something. And at the very beginning, I would hear someone say something that was unrealistic, the person who was paying me or hiring me. And I would gloss over it. I would ignore those red flags because I wanted to do the job. I would ignore those red flags because I wanted to get the investor to invest in my project. But it always went bad. Don't ignore the red flags. I'm not saying walk away from the project, but bring up the situations right there on the spot. I remember one time I was here in my home and I was working with this writer and we were going to collaborate on a project. He had some connections to a big time producer and we were going to collaborate on a project. And so he said, oh, okay, I'm going to bring over another co-producer to meet you at your house. And he has done large project for name singers, music videos. It was a guy who had produced a lot of music videos. So they were both over my house. They were talking, they were in the living room. They were talking about a project that we had decided to do, that the writer was going to write, I was going to direct. We were going to shoot it at my location, a one location feature film. And this other producer had contacts to people higher up the food chain that we did not have contacts to. So they're standing right there, all three of us. And then all of a sudden, the producer that was just brought in just introduced to me. He says, well, you know what? I know X, Y, and Z guy who just directed X, Y, and Z film. And it was something I had recognized. And he said he would be interested in doing this. He's not doing anything right now. And that was during my period of discovering that you need to speak up when you see those red flags. Don't let them go by and think you can change them later. And I said, oh, excuse me, wait a minute. Are you guys talking about bringing in another director? And then he said, yeah. And I said, no. You're here in my house because I'm planning to direct. My partner here is planning to write, and we brought you in as a producer because you have higher contacts. And both of them went silent. They just looked at me. And so I said, if you're thinking about bringing another director in, our meeting is over. The only reason I have you in my home is because I was going to put my home as the location. I was going to direct and edit the project. And then we take it to those connections that you have and sell it. This was the times of direct-to-video or direct-to-DVD. And they just looked at me. And I said, if that's the situation, this meeting is over. And then they both said, oh, okay, yeah, let's get back together. We'll talk about it later. And they left, and I never heard from either one of them again. But that's what I'm talking about. When you see those red flags, no matter how much you want what's being offered, no matter how much you want to participate, speak up. Don't let those red flags slip by. There's no reason to. Stand your ground and speak up for what you want. Cut the scene, delete it, edit it, stop right here, cut to black, fade to black. Don't let people walk over you. I'm not saying you have to do it in a nasty way. You can always be polite. You can always be respectful. But speak up for yourself. Get into the habit of doing it. In any business, I talk a lot about the film business and the acting business, but any business, speak up for yourself. Say what you want and stop it right there. Do not ignore red flags. So what I want to say in closing is think of your life as a film, a feature film, or a feature film script. And think of scenes that you may be living through right now that you don't like, that are irritating you, that are bringing you down, that are a thorn in your foot, and cut it. Delete it. Cut that scene out of your life. How can you delete this content that's irritating you, that's bringing you down, that's holding you back? How can you pivot? How can you do something else? Don't live the life, the film, the script that's bringing you pain, that's bringing you turmoil, that's causing you self-doubt, self-hate. Move on, cut it, delete it, edit it. You don't have to accept what's bringing you down, what's hurting you. Those scenes can be cut in film, in television, independent film, short films, and in your real life. Cut what's causing you problems. Cut it. Delete it. I know it sounds, you're probably sitting down saying, oh, it's easier said than done. You come up with 1,000 excuses why you can't do this, why you can't do that. You have one life. And if you know something is wrong, you know something is hurting you, you know something is bad for you, you know some person is bad for you, you know some person doesn't really care about you. They only care about themselves or how they can manipulate you to get what they want. You don't have to hurt them. You don't have to fight them. Cut them. Leave them on the cutting room floor. I'll see you in the next one.